Man, I don't like walkthroughs on shiny boats. That just tells me somebody unwrapped it and they're like, hey, here's this brand new boat that I have no idea how it fishes. I know the ins and outs of this boat. I know its strengths, its weaknesses, what I love about it, and what I change about it. And so I'm going to walk you through how I like to fish out of my Bonafide SS127. So let's get started. As you can see, I have not put a power pole or a rudder on this boat. In most of the instances that I fish, I find that I don't need it. You know, a little bit of paddle stroke steering can control it. So I've not found a need for that. Some people love it. I haven't done it yet. Then we move forward. You'll see I've got an anchor trolley over here. This is the Yak Attack anchor trolley that's got the guides. Basically what this does, you'll notice right here, is this keeps your line where it needs to be so that it's not flopping up on you or way down below the boat. This keeps it in line. So in the tracks here, I have the Yak Attack, the Omega rod holders. Now these things are really cool because they've got multiple adjustment points. You know, if I want to raise this up, I can raise it up. If I want to pivot it here, I can also pivot it there, depending on what I'm doing. And then if I need to move it side to side, I don't have to unscrew the whole thing. I can just push in. So there is a tab right there that you just push in on, and it will allow you to spin it around. And then if you want to take it off completely, you open it up and it will come off. And see, here is the place where it's secured. And so you can move that along. Now, real quick, while we're here, what I want to talk about is something that I found that I didn't realize was even a thing until recently when I was moving these rod holders around. I don't know how much we can zoom in on that, but if you notice right here, built into the design is an American flag. Yak Attack reminding you yet again that it's made in the USA. That's a pretty cool little find. I didn't even realize was on there for a long time. Just found that the other day. So I've got that, got a pair of these rod holders in the back here. And now I've put in these Mighty Mount XLs on the corners on both sides. This is if I'm going to carry more rods. So if I need some of the old rocket launcher style tubes or anything else track mounted, I put it here. This is also a great place for a 360 light. It's also a great place for a GoPro camera if you're going to have that over the shoulder shot. So these have come in real handy. They fit perfectly right in that space. Then we're going to move up a little bit. So if any of you read my review, you'll understand that I'm not a huge fan of the perch pads. Frankly, I'm not nimble enough to ever use the perch pads without falling off. Fat man in the water, not a good look. So what I did instead is I mounted a longer Mighty Mount XL here and then mounted my anchor wizard here. Moving forward, so I've got the old school parking pole here, and it's basically strapped in right here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to walk back, and I want you to see how this is attached. So I have repurposed this old Ram 2007 rod holder. So it's got a solid place here that the parking pole rests on. It's got a strap that I can put over it if I want to, that holds it in place really well. You know, the roto grip holders, like are holding the paddle, they're a little bit too wide for that. So what I did is I utilize this, it shoots it in there. And so when I'm on the water, I'll have it open like this and strapped down. And then when I need to deploy it, all I have to do is pull it out, basically unsheath it. And then to put it back in, I just run it right back there, loop it in, and it's good to go. Nice and secure, not going anywhere. So what I've done is on the electronics pod, I've mounted a Mighty Mount XL, and then I have the 1.5 inch ram mount up to the Garmin 7SV. And it basically sits in. I ran the power and everything out of the box to plug in here, which plugs into my Yak power system, which is here, and then all the components are inside here. And then what will happen is if I'm not going to fish with my fish finder, let's say I'm fishing a smaller smaller pond or smaller lake or somewhere where I just really don't need a fish finder, frankly, then all I have to do is unplug these 3 wires, let them hang, and unscrew the mount here, and then the fish finder comes off, the electronics pod can stay. That is a recommendation I would give to you, is if you don't have the cash to buy an extra electronics pod, I would not fish this boat without the electronics pod in, because there is a large cavity there that water is going to slap up in, and it's going to make the hull less efficient. So if you don't have the extra coin to buy a spare electronics pod, I would go ahead and just make it to where you can take your fish finder off, so that you can fish with this still in and the fish finder's not there, you don't have the extra weight, and it's not a problem. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to show you over here is how I handle the paddle part. So I took a screwball, I mounted it to an old Ram mounts aluminum mount that I had with the spring load, and then took a camera ball and mounted that to the bottom of the rotomold. So normally this is a T-bolt, but by taking the T-bolt out and putting the camera mount ball in it, I was able to utilize it. It gets it up a little bit higher, and so if I'm standing, it's easier to reach. Also, if I'm going to put it in the paddle part, I can slide it up, rotate the angle slightly, and it sits in there perfectly, and it's out of my way back here. That's basically how I like to fish my Bonafide. I utilize a backpack storage is usually what I use. I've got the Plano Cryptic Z-Series bag that I use for almost all my stuff, and a quick worm zipper bag. One other thing that I utilize way too much, and they call it a junk drawer. It is definitely a junk drawer on my boat, so you'll be able to see this when I loosen this up. So this is kind of a catch-all for all kinds of stuff. I've got a fold-up measuring board in there. I've got fish grips. I've got a bungee, pliers, all kinds of old baits, mounts, new baits that I haven't used yet, sunscreen. Basically a drawer that I thought I would never use that I find myself using all of the time. The boat the best. It gives me everything right at my hands, and I don't have to get up and move a lot. So thank you, refrigerator. All right, let's go again.